You're listening to the Femtrepreneur Show, and this is episode 12. In this episode, we're chatting with Alex Tooby of alextooby.com, and we're talking all about how to promote your course on Instagram and why it doesn't matter if there are already tons of other courses about your topic. Hey guys, I'm Mariah.
And I'm Megan, and we're so excited for you to hear this interview. Alex Tooby is an Instagram marketer, influencer, and mentor who built a targeted, engaged, and profitable following of over 435,000 followers in the last year and a half, which is crazy. She now teaches other entrepreneurs how to take advantage of the photo sharing app and how to use it to promote their own unique businesses. So let's dig in. Hey, Alex, we are so excited to have you here today.
Hey guys, I'm super excited as well.
Thanks for being here. We already gave a little introduction to our listeners, but I'd love to hear from you just a little bit more about who you are and what you do.
Cool. Well, I'm Alex Tooby. I'm 26 years old. I'm from BC, Canada, and I'm an Instagram marketer, influencer, and mentor. So basically, I'm playing a couple roles here. I have a Instagram account that has over 370,000 followers, which is kind of my claim to fame, where I started. And then from there, I went on to kind of teach other entrepreneurs how to use the platform to promote their businesses. So that's where my focus is right now. And yeah, I have a variety of courses and online trainings that kind of outline that.
That's awesome. So let's take a step back and tell us what you were doing before you started your business, and then what prompted you to start your business.
Sure. I used to work in graphic design, actually. So I worked at a variety of print shops and things like that. And my business or my background was always in kind of digital design or art and creative scenes. So Instagram obviously appealed to me. But I feel like my whole life I've felt very confined by having a boss. And so it was always my goal really to make something for myself. So I've always kind of been looking for an exit strategy. I have done affiliate marketing. I've done selling on eBay. I have done ClickBank and all of those things.
You're like me, you just tried everything.
For sure. I was I need a way. I just can't hit that alarm clock every morning and go into work and punch a clock. So, so eventually, I kind of realized that even all those other things like affiliate marketing, I was doing work for somebody else. Even if I made money, the profit was mostly going to somebody else. So I was still in the same situation. So I kind of needed a real outlet. And then I just decided, well, this is something I'm good at, so why not offer it? And here we are.
So how did you transition though from working at your corporate job to making enough money from your business? And what was your income streams at that time that allowed you to switch over to your business full time?
I kind of took a risk. I didn't I was making a pretty good full-time income, $30K a year, something average like that. And I just was you know what, I'm not going to die. I'm not going to go homeless. If I need to get a job, I'll just get a job. So I just went for it and I quit my full-time job. That's when I moved to BC, actually. I was in Alberta at the time. Quit my job, and then I picked up a part-time, flexible gig just so I had a little bit of income coming in. But by quitting my job, I basically put all my cards on the table and was I have to make this work, or else, I'm going to have to move back into my mom's house and look like a jerk. So
yeah, this is exactly what I did when I was I need to make this work.
Totally. And I feel a lot of people are afraid to take that risk, but when you do take it, you're much more likely to make it because you have to.
I feel like that too. And I feel it's never the advice I would give someone. I wouldn't tell you, quit your job with no backup plan and no savings. That's never advice I would give to someone. But at the same time, that's what I did was shut down all of my successful businesses, making a couple $1,000s a month, shut them all down, being I have no backup. I have no savings. If this doesn't work out, that's it. Like you said, moving back into mom's basement. So
yeah.
Yeah. No, I think for those of us who if you have that in you, go ahead and do it, because it will force you to like make those decisions and get started and honestly work in a way that I feel like you just don't work if you have a backup plan, or if you have a full-time day job. You kind of think like, oh, I'm tired, or like, oh, like I can't, I don't have a lot of time today to work on that. Yeah, when you don't have anything else, you're just like, this has to work.
Yeah, I played it a little safer. I'm not the risk taker, but I always get so inspired. So I know we have a lot of people that listen to our podcast and are in our community that have full-time jobs or part-time jobs and want to make this on their own. So I feel like hearing the just go for it is so inspiring. I wanted to, but I was engaged. I was engaged in Beyonce.
When I had a job, I was like after work, I would, work on something, or I was kind of a bad employee at times and was like, had an extra tab open. I was doing something else, but like
checking email.
You just have to really want it, I think.
Yeah.
I agree. So was this first business that you started to actually take off and create an income for you, is that Men in Coffee?
Well, actually, I decided that I wanted to work in social media. So I started a social media consulting where I was like, I'll just help whoever needs help with like Twitter and Pinterest and Google Plus and all of those things. And I had a few clients, but I realized I'm spending all my time kind of like building someone else's presence, and mine's just sitting stagnant, which happens a lot when people have, one-on-one clients, stuff like that. So at that time I realized, okay, well, I need to make a name for myself. And I also don't really enjoy Google Plus as much as I do, say, Instagram, right? So that's when I kind of decided to niche down and was like, this is what I like the most. This is what I get the most like joy out of doing and can see myself doing on a day-to-day basis. So I just kind of was like, okay, now I'm doing Instagram only. And it was amazing how quickly more people came to me now that I had this like specialty rather than just being a general social media marketer, right?
Yeah, absolutely. I think the power of niching down is like, everyone says that, oh, I was so scared to do it, and I thought I was going to lose customers or clients or anything, and then you end up doing it, and it's the best thing you can do for your business.
Totally.
So then how did you start making money on Instagram? Like, I think for me, the biggest barrier for me with Instagram, and the reason that I haven't put so much time into it, is that I have a hard time thinking about how it translates, like almost like lay out like the flow chart for me of like, how does a follower on Instagram turn into money in the bank?
All right. Yeah, I think that a lot of people think right away, they're like, oh, well, I'll post to Instagram and then I'll just like make some money. Like it's much more complicated than that. And actually a lot of the sales come later on. It's not, most people don't buy straight from your Instagram bio. As you ladies know, obviously building your email list, giving away freebies, that kind of stuff is where the money really is. So it's the same on Instagram. You want to, like for me, I'll make a post that provides some sort of value. And then at the end, I'll say, I've got, this freebie in my bio. Go ahead and click that if you're interested in learning more. Then obviously, once that person's on my email list, I nurture them through my email and then eventually make the sale there. So it's kind of a misunderstanding that you could make money straight from Instagram. Like it does happen. Say you have a like low ticket item. So maybe you're selling like a mug on Etsy or something like that. It's only $10. That kind of purchase people will make. If you're trying to sell a coaching package for $1,000, it's not going to happen straight through Instagram. So you obviously have to nurture that relationship. So yeah, so there's that. And then there's like the total other spectrum, which is like my account, Men in Coffee. So it's not the same where I'm giving out freebies and things like that. With that account, I'm more so selling sponsored posts. So there I'm focusing on creating a feed that's aesthetically beautiful and is focused again. Like that's one of the main things with Men in Coffee and why it's so popular is because it only is Men in Coffee. It's not just coffee and it's not just men, it's both of them. So everyone gets what they're looking for, right? So anyway, at that point, there's going to be companies who sell coffee. Maybe they sell brewing equipment or fashion or something like that. They're going to want to have their product displayed there because now I have the influence, right? So in that case, yeah, I'm just trying to keep my feed nice and consistent and posting daily. And yeah, at the same time saying, if you want to be featured, use my hashtag. If you want to be featured, email me, that kind of stuff. Still trying to get people like into my inbox really in the end.
Oh, interesting. So like, would you say?
Oh, wait, before we dig further, I want to clarify. So people who don't know Men in Coffee, can you explain like that's your Instagram account and that you have an influence there? Just because I feel like that may not be something everyone knows about.
Sure, totally. Yeah. So
I knew about it when I found you.
I know you did. And I was like, okay, let's make sure everyone knows what we're talking about.
Yeah. Okay. So Men in Coffee was like the first big account that I made. I made it in November of 2014, I think. So it's just over a year, almost 2 years now. And we're currently at 373,000 followers. So basically in 3 months, I had built it up to 10,000 followers. And then I got picked up by the Daily Mail UK. So they wrote an article about it, and then it kind of like went viral from there. And yeah, so then at that point, I just kind of was like, oh, how am I going to like take advantage of this traffic I'm getting? And yeah, so that's when I started kind of like, I sell products. So I sell branded mugs and t-shirts and then sponsored posts and things like that. And for anyone who's wondering, the idea just came up randomly one night with a girlfriend of mine when we were having wine. I think maybe we were on Instagram. We saw a picture of a guy like outside of a coffee shop and we're like, ooh, that's a good combo. I looked it up and nobody was doing it. So I was like, I don't know where this is going to go, but I'm just going to like get the account. I'm just going to start it because I think people will like it. And then here we are.
I love that. I feel like combining two weird things is kind of a magical way to start a business.
Totally.
Like, oh, what are these things? It's like they're kind of unrelated, but maybe they could become a thing.
Exactly.
And now it's a thing.
Exactly.
Did you know that you were going to monetize it? Like when you started Men in Coffee, were you like, oh, this is going to become my business? Or was it just like, I don't know what's going to happen?
No, yeah. Like I said, I just thought it was an idea that other people would like too. And then once that article went out, I was like, oh crap, I need to monetize this. I need to switch it into a business. So yeah, first thing I did was team up with a print fulfillment company and just create some designs for t-shirts. And yeah, so that's a great way for people to start a business too, because there's no upfront cost. Basically, you just have to make your design and upload it. And then when you get a sale, you get a little bit of profit. So that's how I started there.
Oh, that's cool. Kind of like print on demand kind of stuff.
Exactly. Yeah.
I like that. So like what right now would you say is kind of like, if you can give us like a rough breakdown of like your income streams, because we all know that like healthy businesses should have multiple income streams. You have the physical products, you have like sponsored posts, you have your courses. So what's kind of like all the income streams that add up?
Courses is definitely way up there. That's probably 80% of my income. It's definitely where I spend the most time too, just because it has the most payoff, I guess. But probably the other 20 or 15% would be from Men in Coffee, so just sponsored posts and the product sales here and there. And then I actually have a Fiverr gig that makes me like $300 every few months, which is not so bad. So yeah, so primarily courses and then a few other like affiliate, the sponsored posts and the Fiverr gigs. So yeah. But I always say that I think I'm leaving money on the table with Men in Coffee because I just don't have enough time to really sift through all of the messages I get and all the people who want to be featured and could potentially pay money to be featured. So there's definitely more money there. I just don't really have the time for it, which is say.
I have that same thing where like, well, I have like the comic camper business and it's like started out as my main business, got really like the same thing, kind of got picked up by more like me, like it was like, oh, we want you on TV, we want you on the radio, we want to, it kind of got featured and it got like bigger that way. But a part of me is like, oh, I always feel like we could be doing so much more. And I feel like I personally don't have like a lot of time to put into every single thing, but maybe it's like one of the things we've been talking about is maybe hiring someone that can help like go through, same thing, like kind of go through those requests. Like even last night I got like an interview request from like Pop Sugar or something about like, oh, like let's talk about your camper. And I'm like, oh my gosh, like just another thing on the list. But I'm sure you get tons of requests where people are asking to give you money and it's like you almost don't even have time to like take it all.
I know. It seems ridiculous, but it's true.
Yeah. No, it's funny though. I've had conversations with a lot of other people that have that same thing where they're just like, you kind of have to, be picky about like where you spend your time and all that stuff. Okay, so let's talk about your courses, because at this point you're saying it's 80% of your income, which is awesome. So what was the first course that you launched? What was it about, and how did that first launch go? I feel like a lot of what we try to do with the Femtrepreneur Show is kind of demystify that first launch and really break it down in detail. Like, what did you do to promote it? What was your situation then? So let's talk about your first course and how you launched it.
Sure. Okay. So before I actually decided to make a course, I was trying to offer like one-on-one services. And my brother, he has a business doing soccer training on YouTube, and he sells courses as well. And he's like, Alex, you need to make an info product, like just do it. And I'm like, nobody's going to want to buy it. Like, I had all those fears, like I'm going to put in all this effort and nobody's going to buy it. Anyway, so I took his advice and I created my course, Infamous to Influential was my first course. And it's basically an Instagram course that is focused on growth. So there's a lot of Instagram courses out there that are like teach you how to take pretty pictures and that kind of stuff. While there is some info on that, it's more about growth. It's more about getting your target market in front of your feed so they can be exposed to your content and then eventually get on your email list and convert it into a customer. So that's what that course is about. So at the time I had about 700 people on my email list, which I was like super proud of, and anyone else should be super proud of. It's a lot. And so I built the sales page and I was like, what do I say? Like, am I telling a story? Am I trying to sell to them? Like, it was this weird limbo of like what to say and like how to make it all make sense and how to make them want to buy it, right? So my brother, again, introduced me to one of his friends who was into marketing, and he said, hey, I'll look over your sales page for you. So that was great to have like somebody else look over it for me, and he gave me a few recommendations and I implemented those, and I was like, all right, let's just do this. Like, let's just open the cart and see what happens. So I sent out maybe 5, like my whole launch was probably like 3 weeks, where I had like 1.5 weeks pre-launch, just sending emails, kind of priming people. Then I had the cart open for 10 days, I think it was. So another, 5 or 6 emails. Then I was also in a phase where I was like scared to email my list, like I think that's common too. Like, you don't want to like be in people's face all the time and constantly be selling to them. So like, that's even something I still struggle with like today, but the money's in the email list. So you got to email them.
A lot of people say that, actually. They say that same thing where they're like, I am nervous to send out 2 emails in a week, or like everyone is going to unsubscribe, but no, not everyone will not unsubscribe. Like,
I still feel nervous when I'm going to go press like schedule broadcast or like send. I'm like, have a little minor panic attack still for some, even though I'm like with the expert every day and should have no fears, I still do. So I think it's normal.
Yeah, exactly. So I went ahead and I sent them. I kind of spaced them out send one day and then not the next day, and then send one the next day kind of thing. And yeah, I had like a way more successful launch than I thought I ever would. I ended up making, I think it was like 15,000 US, and I'm in Canada. So that was awesome. I expected to sell like 10 courses and I would have been happy with that. And I ended up selling like 50, and I was like over the moon. And then I was like, okay, well, this is it. Like, thanks, Dylan. Thank you so much to my brother for like telling me to do it. So it totally changed everything. Absolutely everything.
That's amazing. I mean, I think when you experience, I think all of us have had that where you're like, okay, yeah, I have people on my list. Yeah, I'm sure some people will buy. I know I literally had the exact same goal. My boyfriend asked me, how many sales do you want to make in order to make it worth it for you to run this course and make it worth all of the time you put in? And I said 10. Like 10 sales would be like, I'd be like so happy if I made $1,000. That would be like, to me, that would have been life-changing. And when it surpasses your goals like that, and you're just like, it's like you said, you're within a matter of days, everything changes. And it's almost hard to like describe, like, because it sounds dramatic. It sounds dramatic to be like, no, literally my life changed in the period of 7 days. I went from like being like, I don't know how to make money to like, this is awesome. I mean, did you just like feel like so excited, like just about the potential? I feel like that's the biggest thing.
I did. And then I kind of felt like, I think this is also common, I kind of felt like a fraud. I was like, are they going to like it? Like, oh my God, are people going to ask for refunds? And honestly, one of the first things I did was re-record a lot of the videos, because at that point, once people had purchased it, I'm like, it's not good enough. Like, I thought the sound quality wasn't good enough, and like maybe I could have elaborated a little bit more. So I ended up updating the course pretty quickly after people started buying. And then I went through all the trials and tribulations of like different membership platforms and that kind of stuff, but like people stuck with me the whole time, and every time I was like, oh, I updated something, then people were like super excited about that too. So I think there's definitely like a learning curve and growing pains that you'll go through after promoting your first course, but definitely all worth it.
Yeah. And don't worry, I think people worry like, oh, if I go to make an update after, it's going to look like I didn't know what I was doing before. But to us, it's like you said, the only thing that happens is people feel like, wow, I'm getting even more value. Or like a lot of times I'll kind of forget to add like a lesson or a module about something. I'll be like, crap. And I'll be like, ooh, new bonus available. And people will be like, oh my gosh, thank you so much. And I'm like, yep, totally slipped my mind before. Like, we think of it as like, oh, I was unprepared, but everyone else is like, wow, this is so generous.
Yeah, exactly.
So I wouldn't worry about it. So then what has kind of happened since then? That was your first launch. And when did that course first come out?
So it's kind of like the anniversary right now. So it was last year, September. So in between then, I did that, and then I was like, this is amazing. And I actually like closed the cart, and I wasn't selling it anymore because that was the way I was doing it back then. Then it was like Black Friday or something like that. And I was like, why don't I do a sale? Let's see what happens. So I was just like, it was like honestly on the day of Black Friday, and all these emails were coming into my inbox saying that people were like doing sales. I'm like, yeah, I may as well try it. So I sent an email saying I'm doing a sale for like 2 days, and I made like another 10 grand or something like that. And I was like, this is like, is this real? Is this my life right now? And like I tell my friends, and they're just like, what do you mean? Like you created this course and now you're just like balling? I'm like, I honestly don't know, but I'm going with it. So
it's like everything you're just like, the way that you talk about it is like exactly how I always like, especially used to still feel like, just like, especially when you talk to your friends, or like they're just like, I don't get it, but like, wait, like why are you paying for dinner? And you're just like, no, seriously, it's okay, I got it. And they're like, I don't understand what you do all day. You sit in your pajamas at home.
Yeah. Well, the funniest thing is that like most people I know think that my entire business is just men and coffee. I'm like, well, there's a little bit more to it than that, but you know, whatever.
That's interesting.
But anyway, at that point, so I did a sale, and then I was like, okay, now I'm just going to leave the cart open. Now I'm just going to let it, let people buy it, let them find it on my website and that kind of stuff. Then that's when my focus turned more to like creating a funnel. And I actually bought your Fuck Yeah Funnels program. And actually that's what helped me write my free e-course. So maybe that's why you like it so much.
Love that. I love that sequence.
Yeah. So after I created that, then I was getting a lot more like passive sales. Because at the beginning it was like, okay, I do a sale or launch the product and now I've made money. But in between there wasn't that many sales. So the funnel was definitely like super, super important for the longevity of my business. So now I get lots of sales on the daily just from that. So that's where I put my focus. And then I decided to come out with another course, which is called #Hero. So that one was kind of like an even more niche product. So it was just a lower ticket item. It's priced at $99. And that's just for people who are kind of struggling with hashtags, how to choose them, how to find your audience through them. So that was the second course I did. And I kind of took the same steps as the launch of the first one. It was also very successful. So I was like, okay, this model works. So I'm just going to keep going with it.
How long did you wait before coming out with your second course?
Quite a while, actually. #Hero came out in March, maybe, or February, I think it was. So maybe 5 or 6 months before I came out with another one.
I mean, that's soon to me. I mean, to me, I'm like, oh, wow, that's like a lot all at once. Like it took me 2 years to make after I made the first course, took me 2 years to make the second. And then I made a bunch of them after that. But like at first I was like, just the like craziness of like figuring out the first one. I was like, oh my gosh, I can't even imagine like making a second one. But I think that's amazing that you launched 2 courses in the span of 5 months.
Nice. Well, that makes me feel good. But I think I was like, oh, I need to like stay present. Like I need to keep coming up with stuff so people like don't forget about me. I don't really know exactly what spurred it. I feel like, you know, that the first course was successful. So I was like kind of skating along, and I was like, how long can I really skate for? So I wanted to just make sure that I had another product, and I wanted to offer something that was a little bit less expensive so that people who weren't ready to spend almost $300 could buy that one instead. And yeah. So
I think there's like 2 things you can do to grow your business at any one time. Like wherever you're at, you can either say, well, this is the audience that I have. If I spend a little bit of time creating a new product for that same audience, I can make a new burst of money that way. Or you can say like, well, I know that not everyone not everyone who's ever going to buy my course has bought it yet. I need to just get it in front of new people. And I think we kind of go through cycles of like, is it time for me to do like a sort of big push to grow my audience and have new people buying my existing stuff? Or is it time to create that second offering for the audience I already have? And both ways are good ways to generate revenue. I wonder, like, so why did you decide to make your second course that came out lower priced than the first one instead of being like, oh, my next course is going to be $1,000 or something like super premium?
Yeah, actually, I had the plan to do a premium course, and I still do, because I feel like there's so much more that can be talked about, and a bigger course would help with that. But I have a Facebook group where, you know, people are asking questions every day, and I was like, people are struggling with hashtags. Like they're struggling with, you know, which ones to choose and how many posts they should have inside of them, and creating your own hashtag and all these things. And I just saw like an influx of questions. I was like, I'm just going to jump on this opportunity and like offer them something. So, and it was pretty quick. Like the actual course is probably like an hour of training. So it didn't really take me that long. And at that point I felt like, okay, well, I'm comfortable with the whole process of creating a course. So I just kind of banged it out, and yeah, so that's why I did that. But it did kind of postpone my plan for doing a more premium one. So I'm still obviously waiting on doing that.
So that's like coming out soon, right? Super premium course on the way.
Totally. Yeah. So I wanted to originally, like at this time, I wanted to come out with a premium one, but instead I decided to update the old one and kind of do like a sale on that. And actually I'm doing a price increase. So yeah, so that's my focus for now. And then next year I can focus on a premium course.
I like that a lot. When we have evergreen courses, which you said Infamous to Influential is now evergreen on a funnel, the way that we kind of have launches throughout the year is by doing a price increase. Yeah, it's actually been a learning curve for me, because the other 2 courses were like products that nobody had ever seen before. So like building hype for them felt easier than right now, where I'm trying to say, okay, well, I've updated this course that you guys have been seeing for like the last year, and still trying to get people excited about it. So it's definitely different. But I think it'll turn out good by the end. We've experienced that same feeling of like, why does it feel harder to promote this on a relaunch than it did like the first time? It was like, this is new. I can't believe, I'm making this. This is like the first time you'll see these emails, or the first time you'll see this content. It is markedly different to create that type of energy around a relaunch. It isn't bad, and it's not like they aren't also successful, but it's definitely like a totally different energy, I've noticed.
Yeah, I agree.
So what did you do? Like, can you give us some of the strategies that you used in these first couple of launches that made it so successful? Like, did you use a webinar? You clearly had emails. What were some of the strategies just like for your launches that people who are listening can emulate, that obviously worked for you?
Totally. Yeah, actually, to address your first question, I didn't use any webinars, which is something that like everyone's like, you got to do webinars. I know you say it all the time. Like the conversion rate on webinars is insane. So I'm like, if I did a webinar, then like my launch would be even better. But live video is something that I'm not 100% comfortable with. So it's definitely in the future for me. I'm actually relaunching now, and I'm going to do a Facebook Live series as sort of a compromise. So that's going to be my starting point with live video. But in the past, I just did email, and I do my best to, so from my Instagram account, obviously I'm using Instagram because I want to prove that the platform works for this type of stuff and for really promoting your businesses. So I just, create a series of posts on Instagram that are asking them to click the link in my bio, and either that would be straight to my email list, or I would put them into my Facebook group, because I find in a Facebook group, obviously you can get a little more in depth with your answers to people's questions and kind of show off your personality a little bit more than you can in just one Instagram post. So that was kind of my focus for the previous launches, getting people into the group, giving them freebies, just showing them like my teaching style and, kind of that I know what I'm talking about, and then just being really, really, really generous. So whenever someone asks a question, I make sure that, my answer is a paragraph long or longer, and it specifically addresses like their account. So if they say, I have a problem with this, I'm like, okay, what's your Instagram account? Like, let me personally look at your account and give you dedicated feedback, because people are like, oh my God, like she actually looked at my account. Like that means so much to me kind of thing. So a lot of it is just that like know and trust factor, right? So just getting people to trust me and believe that I actually care and that I want you to succeed. And that's why I've made these courses, right? So I funnel a lot of people into my Facebook group, and then I just make posts periodically, this course is coming out, this is what will be in it, these are the bonuses, etc. The same kind of stuff that you would put into an email. And then obviously I want them on my email list, because that's when I really break down everything you're going to get. And I found that interesting subject lines seem to help a lot. On my last launch, when I did the #hero, I was like, oh, my baby that I've been working on is coming kind of thing. And then on the launch date, my subject line was my water broke. And everyone was like, oh my God, I thought you were actually pregnant, blah, blah, blah. And like, it was kind of clickbait, but it worked. And so it's just a variety of like, getting them into my groups and on my email list where I can show them what I really know and how I teach. And that like know and trust factor, just getting people to trust you really is the most important, I think.
I have a question really quick. So, and you're the Instagram expert, so I'm going to ask you. So do you create like a special link that you put in your bio so you can track who came from it? Or like, how do you approach tracking who actually came from Instagram?
Yeah, I usually use a bit.ly link. Also, if you have a WordPress site, then you can use Pretty Links plugin. So it actually shows like alextooby.com/whatever, but you can track the actual link clicks there. So
you can do that on Squarespace too. I have a blog post about it. Just so any Squarespace listeners know, you can do it. You can do it too.
Yeah, totally. Yeah. So I do track those. And then, I like to track them. Like I change my link all the time, but while it's present, I like to kind of see, which specific Instagram posts put like a bigger spike in the clicks and stuff like that, to try and see what exactly is working. And then also recently, Google Analytics now is showing traffic from Instagram, which I
didn't know that
before. Yeah. So now you can see in your like social settings that it actually shows traffic from Instagram. So,
awesome.
So I do my best to track it. It's not as great as like, traffic to your website or that you can track through Google Analytics and stuff like that, right? It's not that in depth, but you can still see what kind of posts spurred people to click and learn from that.
That's neat. So do you post do you feel like a lot of your Instagram posts are more like just value, and then in the caption is when you would say click the link in my bio for something free? Or are you sometimes like occasionally just like flat out promoting like this is launching right now, the enrollment is open today, like here's an image of the course, like? Or do you feel like that like is not good to put in your feed? Keep it really like consistent, like don't put a salesy thing, make sure it's going to a free thing. Like what would you say? Because like a launch is coming up for us, and I want to use Instagram during the launch, and I feel like I almost don't know how to use it in a classy way. Like, I don't want to just be like, bye, bye, bye. Like, what's the classiest way for me to do this?
Yeah, I think like for me, I will do a couple sales specific posts. It won't be every single day back to back. And a lot of the times I will still like provide a little bit of like a quick tip or something before I say, hey, come buy the program or whatever. But I think like for you, if you're not super active on Instagram now and then you show up and you're like, buy from me, it won't really like work as well as like I've been present for a long time and people already know that I give them value. So for you, you might want to do like, excuse me, you might want to do like a week of like tips or like a challenge, something like that, that like ends
we have
with
like our 10 course tips series that we do. Yeah.
Yeah. So I find that like on Instagram, people are like, they can be pretty fickle. Like if you just like are always selling that there's like, I'm not following this person anymore. Like I'm out of here. So as long as you like make the effort to at least give some sort of value or like make them think, like even if it's just a fact, like the other day shared like images with texture get like 79% more engagement or something like that. And people are like, ooh, like I've never heard that before. And like, that's enough to like excite someone and keep them following you. So I feel like a lot of the time when I say, oh, you have to share value, people are like, oh, well, like, what am I going to share? Like, it doesn't have to be super in depth. Like you also don't want to write like a huge blog post on your Instagram. You want to keep it short. So just little nuggets of value, I think, are the best. And then, you know, those promo posts that are specifically promo will most likely not get as much engagement as you normally get. But, you know, the few people that do go over and click your link, they might just buy. So it's worth it.
And do you think, is there an impact between, okay, so obviously Instagram images are important. So do you feel like if we had a graphic, so not like a pretty picture, but like a graphic that was obviously promoting something we're doing, do you feel like that's like a no-no and it should always be like a nice picture that's kind of related and then the caption is where really the pitch is? Or like how do you approach graphics versus images and that whole thing?
I think it totally depends what your content has been up until this point. Like I know a lot of graphic designers will always, you know, they'll show kind of the work that they've done and it's always sort of a graphic, right? It's not really a photograph and that works for them. If your feed is like, say you're like a wedding photographer and you have like all these amazing wedding photography photos and then all of a sudden you post a graphic, people will see it from like a mile away that it's like a sales post and they might just avoid it, right? So you want to keep consistent with what you've already done. A good like middle ground and something that I recommend for people who also sell like physical products is to like put your, so you could say like you could put your the image of your course say on an iMac screen that's like in an actual photograph, right? Yeah. Or like a mock-up image.
Yeah, I like that. So it's like, oh, here's like a lifestyle shot of like me at my desk, but on my laptop screen is the sales page or something like that.
So it flows a little bit better with what Instagram users like to see and are exposed to on a regular basis while also kind of plugging your product. So like a lot of people who are, say, artists or they're trying to sell their art or something, like they'll take a photograph of the up close, you know, paint, but like it makes a really big difference when you put that in a frame and you put it on the wall and then you take a picture of it in your living room. Like people can relate to that a lot better than just a graphic or just a really up close image of whatever it is. So yeah, it's definitely something to consider.
I like that. That's super helpful. Thank you. You're giving me so many ideas. No, awesome. I think that's awesome. I think I really struggle with, just like Megan said, like, is it a designy graphic or is it, and a lot of my feed is mostly photographs. It's like, oh, here's this, you know, here's me, or here's my office, or here's what I'm working on today. Here's whatever. And I think that is a really nice and classy way to incorporate it.
Totally. Yeah.
Yeah. So even like our course tips, we wouldn't do a graphic. Maybe we would do like a photograph, which last time we did a graphic. So maybe that was something we should do.
Totally.
Totally. Like you said, it's not cohesive. Like when I look at my feed and I look at when I'm posting the tips, it's like, well, all these photos are like me doing stuff. And then there's all of a sudden like these 10 ones in a row for the 10 course tips that are all these like designed things. And it's just like, oh, there's a block of like weird things that don't fit in.
Yeah, totally. And I think another good point is that, like, even if you do a graphic, you don't have to write out the entire tip like on the picture, because too much text is kind of a bit much for Instagram users too. So like if you look at my feed, I'll do like two words that are kind of like, oh, what is this about? Like intrigue someone. And then all of my information is in the caption. So
oh, I like that.
You could say do like a photograph, and then you could add like a little like circle that says like tip or something, like some sort of graphic element, so people know that there's going to be a tip in this post, but then they learn it all in the caption rather than having the text right on the image.
Okay, I have like a vision of like what I should do for the upcoming 10 course tips. Starts on Monday, so I better get started.
Good timing to have this interview.
I know, but it's funny because I feel like I don't like I'm one of those bad people that isn't consistent on Instagram, and I'm trying to be, and we talk about it as a team a lot, and I think about it a lot, and it's one of those things that I feel like, and maybe that's something I should ask you about is like, what are some tips for just being consistent? Because I feel like I'm missing something in terms of like, oh, I don't feel inspired to say anything today. And I love doing the Instagram stories, like those. I'm like, oh yeah, I can show you what I'm doing. Doesn't feel like it needs to be so perfect, but definitely with posting consistently, sometimes I just feel like, well, what am I going to post today? I don't know.
Yeah, totally. I think the first thing there is like just having a specific focus for your account. So a lot of people don't really know, like they're going to share their personal stuff, and then they're going to share a bit of their business, and then maybe their kid's going to get thrown in there. And like, that's a big problem on Instagram. You have to know when or where the line is between personal and business. So I think that's the beginning point. Like for me, all I share is Instagram tips. Like if I took a picture of like my food and was like, I went out for dinner last night with my boyfriend, you'd be like, I don't care, Alex, like that's the good stuff kind of thing. So as long as you have that in mind, that will kind of keep you like in line of the actual content that you should be sharing. And then I don't think that you should like get too hard on yourself about like how often to post. Like Instagram's pretty cash. Like I only post once per day. A lot of people are like, oh, I'm going to post like 5 times a day, and like just trying to plan 5 pieces of content for like 7 days a week is like way too much, right? So that's when you start like shutting down and you're like, I'm just not going to do it at all, right?
Right.
So keep it nice and simple, only once a day. And like if you miss a day, then whatever. Like I miss a day every now and again. You know, you just have to embrace it and take that off. And then, so like you kind of said with stories, like it's easy for you to share like little bits of like what you're doing, and like you can do that just written in captions. So like I think back to that like personal business lines, people are like, I want to share my personal life, but I don't want to take a picture of my kids. Like, well, you can incorporate that in your text. So, you know, it could be a photo of your office, and you could say, you know, like, oh, like today I'm working on this or that. Like in your caption, it's totally fine to give that personal aspect, and, you know, I'm struggling with this, or, you know, last night I did this, and yeah, so I think that your caption is a place where you can just kind of be free with what you want, and then your images is where you kind of need to be a little bit more like rigid about whether they complement the one before it and after it and that kind of thing.
Interesting. Do you schedule your posts in advance, or like, what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I try. I'm a regular person. Like I am not that good at like being in advance and like having everything all put together. I wish that I was, but a lot of my stuff is like last minute posts. But when I do schedule them, I use later.com, and it's a great scheduling app. So you can all do it from your desktop, which is great because I make my graphics on Adobe Illustrator. So it's nice for me to just pop them right into Later. It also has a mobile app, so you can do that too. But yeah, and then once you've scheduled them, you can actually see your entire feed, like how it's going to look together. So obviously that's important. So yeah, so I really recommend them, and they have, I think it's 30 posts a month is free. So if you're only doing one a day, then you don't even have to invest in anything, which is great. So, and then obviously they have paid plans on top of that. But
that's
yeah,
an awesome resource.
Yeah.
Yeah. And actually, while we're on scheduling, I will say that I like Later because, well, I should say that Later is recommended by me because it's it doesn't go against Instagram's terms of service. So there's a lot of scheduling apps out there that will physically post for you, and that's actually against Instagram's terms of service and could potentially get your account banned. It doesn't always happen, but the risk is there. So I feel it's important to say, especially for business owners. So on Later, you'll just get a notification to your phone that says your post's ready, and then literally the image is there, and you just press paste and your caption's there, and then you just share it. So it's super easy, but something that business owners should be aware of for sure.
That's good to know.
That's awesome. That's something that I think I knew, like, there aren't a lot of apps that let you like just schedule posts that go out, but I never really understood why and what the risk was.
Mm-hmm.
That's good. So, okay, so we have a couple questions that we always like to ask, like, as we kind of wrap this up. This is like, so I have like a lot of notes in my head, and I think Megan might have been writing down some notes too. So it's like, okay, we need to do all these things. But do you have any advice for someone who wants to launch their first course and is thinking about putting it together? What's kind of your biggest advice you could give to someone who's new to all this? I mean, you've had so much success, and I just think it's awesome.
I think that you just kind of have to like embrace the process. Like, there's going to be failures. There's going to be mistakes. You're going to feel like it's not good enough. You're going to maybe want to change the platform you're on. All these things are like totally normal, to be expected. And like, if you don't try, then you'll never know, and you'll never kind of learn those things along the way. So my biggest advice is to just like go for it. And if you have something that you really care about, then that's enough. You can teach that. Like, I feel like the info product industry is so amazing, because imagine if I was still a graphic designer. Like, I would have to be the best. Like, I would have to be unbelievably good to like have enough clients to make the money that I make now, right? But say you're a graphic designer and you just want to teach someone how to make an Instagram template, like something so simple, you could sell it to 1,000 people, right? Like, whereas teaching that to a one-on-one client is like less likely that you're obviously going to make that much money or have that many clients to make that much money. So if you have something that you really care about, you think you're great at, then just go for it. Make a course, make a small one or whatever. Just start somewhere.
Just start. Yeah. I love that.
I love what you said about if you care about something, that's enough. And I think one of the things we try to talk about a lot, and actually I've been recording a new like 3-part video series for the first time. And a lot of it that I've been thinking about when I'm recording that is like, if you care about something and if you're excited about it, if you feel like you could offer encouragement, or like if people ask you questions, you are happy to talk about it. Like, that's the requirement for creating a course, not that you need a degree, or, I went to college for this for 5 years, or, I'm super expert at this, I've been doing it forever. Or like the idea of like the guru expert doesn't apply to creating your own courses. The only like prerequisite is that you care. Like, do you care enough to talk about this and help other people with it? That's really, honestly, the only like requirement for creating your course. I love that. Okay, so we all know that we look pretty successful from the outside, especially when we interview people like you who have amazing Instagram accounts and are having, $15,000 launches and all these amazing things. But what is one thing that you are struggling with right now behind the scenes in your business?
Well, I already said that I kind of suck at scheduling in advance and just kind of like being organized and on top of everything. So that's definitely something that I struggle with. And another thing I struggle with is actually the growth of my business. Like, I need help. I need an assistant, but I am a control freak, and I'm like, how do I let go? What do I let go? How do I trust someone to, convey things the way that I would, that kind of stuff. So at this point, it's like, it's such a blessing that my business has grown so much that I need help. But at the same time, I'm like, I don't know, like how do I find the right person and that kind of stuff. So definitely something that I'm working through right now. And like, it's not really fair to me to have to run my entire business by myself. Like, the whole point of doing this was to kind of get away and, have that freedom. And so I definitely need somebody to help me out. So if there's any VAs out there that think they could work with my control freak, then holla at your girl.
Well, it's interesting because I feel like a lot of us who start businesses, we start out as very disorganized control freaks. What a weird irony. I feel like you and I are like so similar. I'm like, yeah, I was definitely like a control freak, but not an organized one, like controlling everything except the actual way that things were run. So I feel like actually everyone that we ask that question usually says that it's the outsourcing and the delegating and the hiring of team members that is the absolute hardest thing.
Well, that's good to know.
You're not alone.
Definitely not alone.
Definitely not alone. But there are like, I mean, like I definitely feel like the first just like hiring someone for me, it was just realizing that everything can be like a trial. Like we can take action and hire someone for literally like a 10-hour package or a 5-hour trial package. And like, it's not a lifetime commitment. And that to us has really helped us grow without feeling like, oh crap, I'm committing to hiring this person full time. A lot of times with VAs and other contractors, we can make a small commitment to make sure it is a good fit. And if it feels really, really good, then we go forward.
Yeah, that's great advice, actually.
Yeah, that's how we like to do it. So what do you think is going to be the sort of next trend in online business or online courses? Do you have any predictions for the future as things in this industry keep evolving?
I definitely think social media is going to keep rising and rising and rising. It is so, so important. So, whether that means you're making a course about social media or you're promoting your courses through social media, definitely something that you don't want to forget about or miss. And as I say that, I don't necessarily mean that you need to be on every social platform, because I think that's an issue too. Like if you, Mariah, don't like Instagram that much, then don't force yourself to like be on it, which was like,
I've thought about that.
Yeah, at the very beginning, that's what it was for me. I'm like, I'm forcing myself to like Google Plus, and like it's not that fun for me.
Yeah.
So I think that if you find, one or two platforms that you really like the most and that your target audience is using, then to like focus on those. But definitely social media in the info scene. I don't really know. I feel like the whole industry is super new and I'm new to it. So I'm kind of just riding the wave, and hopefully it works out as things go on.
I feel like that too. I feel like riding the wave all the time. No, but I think that's good advice, is that trying to share what you're doing through social media. To me, that means that there's more to what you do than just like the content that you teach. It's a lot about how you share your personal side and your story that gets people to actually buy a course from Alex as opposed to anyone else, or gets someone to buy a course from me as opposed to the 20 other people that sell similar courses to me. Like the thing that sets you apart is on social media, you show your true personality, and maybe that doesn't always come across like on your website because it's like a static site, or on, it kind of depends. Like video is like that too. And for me, sitting down to record a video for YouTube feels overwhelming, something that we're trying to do, but is more difficult versus like getting on Instagram stories or getting on Periscope and like just talking and showing who you are on social media. To me, that's why people buy your courses, because they saw a glimpse of who you are personally and they liked it.
Totally. I agree. And I think that's something that I learned along the way too. Like you said, there's so many other people that are offering Instagram courses. And in the beginning, I was like, oh man, I'm just going to get like, there's a new person every week. I'm just going to get buried and nobody's going to buy from me. But I realized it really wasn't about the course or even the content. It was about me. And, I attracted a certain type of person, and other Instagram experts attracted a different type of person that wasn't necessarily my target market. So it's fine. So I think that that's something that a lot of course creators will probably experience along the way. And yeah, that there's room for everyone, and people come to you for a specific reason because they like you. So so don't let competition kind of bring you down, is what I learned along the way.
Yes, so true. I can't tell you how many times when I started out, I was like, oh, that's it, I'm done. Like my business is just going to be done now because someone else came out with a course on the same topic. I would literally just be like, okay, pack it in, like just go back to whatever. But then it's like, oh, like, and it's surprising. But when you get like, I don't know, you probably get this too. People people sometimes email us and tell us why they bought our programs as opposed to other people's. And they'll say, oh, I looked at this, this, and this, or, oh, I've taken these other people's programs, but the reason I like yours is because I just like your personality. And I'm like, wow, that's all it takes.
Totally. I have had a few of those, which is nice. And that's kind of what helped solidify it for me. It's like, I'm going to attract the people that are meant to take my course. And yeah.
Just that's the tweetable right there. Attract the people that are meant to take my course. I think if we all just say that out loud as an affirmation all the time, we'll all feel really good about it. Well, thank you so much. So where can our listeners find you and find out more about your courses? And I know you have an awesome free course because I took it for my dog's Instagram account and it grew so fast. He went from like 0 to 400 followers in like literally a week from like a brand new account. And then he got featured on 2 major pug Instagram accounts and he got like 11,000 likes like overnight. It was ridiculous.
Holy.
Yeah. So that's all from your free course. So your paid courses are like off the charts.
Yeah, exactly. So obviously I have the free 7-day course, and it's sort of a prerequisite to my paid course. So I recommend that everyone take that before you even consider buying anything from me. So you can find that at alextooby.com/thefemshow, and or you guys will have the link, I'm sure, somewhere. And then otherwise, I would love for you to join my Facebook group, which is called Instagram Marketing Mastermind. So you can find that on my site, or which is alextooby.com, or you can search it in Facebook. And then lastly, you can follow me on Instagram. It's instagram.com/instawithalex, and also /men and coffee if you want to follow that as well.
I love Men and Coffee. It's one of my favorites. We'll have links to all of that in the show notes, by the way. So if you're multitasking right now, you can always go back to the show notes to get those links.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much.
Thank you so much. I loved getting to pick your brain about Instagram, and I'm sure our listeners found all of it valuable as well. So thank you so much.
Yeah, this is insanely valuable. Like, thank you for sharing not only all the Instagram tips, but also your personal experience with your own courses. To me, being able to ask people openly about the sort of first launch experience is really exciting. And everything you said resonated so much with me, really mirrored my own experience, and I think is going to really resonate with a lot of our listeners too. So thank you.
Awesome. Thank you guys so much. It's fun.
Go to thefemshow.com/12 for the show notes to this episode and to find the links to all of the resources we mentioned, including a link to Alex's free 7-day Instagram course.
And if you like this episode, please subscribe to the Femtrepreneur Show on iTunes and leave a rating and a review. It might seem small, but it has a really big impact on the show for us and means that we can keep bringing you guests every single week for free. And don't forget to go to thefemshow.com if you want to submit a question for us to answer. We'll give you a shout out and talk about your question right here on the show.
And if you want to discuss this episode with us and a whole community of amazing entrepreneurs, make sure you join our free Facebook group at thefemshow.com/community.